James Lynch here from MiddleEasy. Happy to be joined by MMA Gold head coach Jim West, who will be in the corner of Aspen Lab this Saturday in the main event of UFC Vegas 40. Jim, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Good. How are you doing? Long time no talk.
I know, it's been a bit. Obviously, a lot's been going on with you as of late. Let's go back 2 weeks ago to the Macy Chiasson fight. At what point were you kind of worried about the weight cut with Aspen? We know that she came out and said later that obviously there was something to do with the fact that she was on her period. But at what point were you starting to get worried as a coach?
Wednesday morning, everything was fine. She woke up where she needed to be. I was a little concerned because I could tell there was something going on with fluctuation. Basically starting on Tuesday, I could tell there was something, right? But Wednesday, it was a little bit more concerning. And then from Wednesday morning to Thursday morning, she woke up about 7.5 pounds heavier than she was Wednesday morning. So then it became obviously a little bit more prevalent. I knew there was something going on. She knew there was something going on, but we thought we'd be able to handle it. Obviously, we used the PI and probably one of the best in the game, of course, and their nutrition experts there and stuff. And sometimes, the funny thing is when you see social media, for one, I'll be honest, a dude can't comment on it, period, end of story. You guys have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Second, every female, and they can argue to the blue in the face, but unfortunately for them, my day job, I work in OBGYN with physicians and doctors all day long and surgeons. I know what goes on with the physiology behind it. And no female is the same relative to their period. Everyone is different. Some only retain 2 pounds. Some retain 5. Some retain up to 8, 9, 10 pounds. Aspen, unfortunately, is one of those. So we thought we could kind of curtail it, and she just couldn't recover from that much weight gain, which is what it is.
So she's a pound over. Then we find out that it's actually Macy who doesn't want to have the fight, and it wasn't the commission that didn't clear it. Just your reaction to that after the fight was rescheduled already because of the injury the first time.
That's Macy's decision, her and her team. I mean, obviously you have the choice, of course, not to fight when someone misses weight. I would say it's quite odd for a fighter to not, take the fight. And, Macy was going to make a lot of money, of course, off of Aspen's mistake. So yeah, I mean, we were all very surprised, but that was her decision, and that's their decision to make.
Have you spoken to Macy's team at all since that happened, or is it just one of those things that happen and then you guys move on?
No, I haven't spoke to anyone from her or her camp.
So take me from that point to now finding out that there was this opportunity with Holly Holm injured of Aspen stepping in there and being the replacement fighter. How quickly did that come together?
Well, I just got done teaching grappling and got a call from Dave, her manager, and Dave usually doesn't call if there's not something going on like weird. So I think it was on late Wednesday night, around 9 or so at night on last Wednesday. We all hopped on a call. Dave goes, "Hey, this is what happened. UFC called." Aspen's like, "Yep, I'll do it." She didn't even know who she was fighting. She's like, "Yep, I'll do it." And then later she found out who she was fighting. Aspen's a fighter at the end of the day. She knows she made a mistake. She owns it. It's never easy for her to make that weight, and it has to be perfect for her to make 135. And everything, has been good, but she got caught up with physiology, and it just is what it is. It's not an excuse. That's called a fact.
Absolutely.
It's just so she didn't, like I said, she didn't even know she was fighting Norma Dumont. She said yes before she even knew who she was fighting. So Aspen's a fighter at heart. Wouldn't have mattered, who it was. She wants to fight.
One thing I actually forgot to mention was this whole thing with Miesha Tate kind of chiming in on the weight cut. Were you surprised by that just because, it kind of came out of nowhere and her accusing Aspen of cheating on the scale?
Yeah, it was very out of nowhere. And I think a lot of people she was catching a little bit of heat for where that came out of left field, and two, to accuse someone of that, especially someone like me, it comes from, a law enforcement background. Like, it's just funny to see, people accuse and they have no, there's no nothing to validate that stupidity. I'm not really going to comment on Miesha. She said what she said without knowing, that was her assumption. And what assumptions do, it makes an ass out of you and me and everyone else. She's right to her own opinion, but Aspen's not a fucking magician. And if she was a magician, she sure in the hell wouldn't have missed weight by cheating. If you're going to do it, you're not going to miss.
And do you think part of that had to do with the fact that I know you guys were linked to a fight with Miesha, right? I know there was an offer or something and she didn't want to take the fight. Do you think that played into it at all?
Maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a fact. That's not talking shit. When Macy fell out the first time, we got a hold of the UFC, and I got a hold of some people that are close to Miesha, and the word back from the Miesha camp was simply she wanted a lesser opponent. Mm-hmm. That's also her prerogative. But the facts are the facts, and that's what they are. No, discourse or, we weren't pissed. Is what it is. We thought Miesha would be someone that would take it, considering she fought the week before. And we just said, hey, look, we know it's the night before. You don't need to cut weight. She had mentioned something that she thought the fight was at 135. That no, we knew it was, no one's going to make weight in, 12 hours at the normal weight class. So we had proposed, 145, but nonetheless, it didn't materialize. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and talk shit about Miesha. I mean, it's not, that fight will probably materialize down the road, and everything always comes full circle, right? When people run their mouth, things always come full circle. And
absolutely.
Everyone has the right to run their mouth and say what they think and make assumptions, but you look like a dumbass when you just make assumptions and you have no fact.
There were some critics that said even if Macy had, taken the fight, that Aspen shouldn't have fought based off the weight cut. Do you agree with that, or do you feel like, hey, she would have been fine to fight?
Aspen has a tough weight cut to 135 every time. Mm-hmm. So, she recovers fine. She has some of the best, people in her corner relative to that. It's not my lane to get involved in her nutrition and, her diet and all that kind of stuff. That's up to those that are professionals in that area. And she has some of the best. She's worked with some of the best. She would have been fine. Aspen always recovers from her weight cut. It's just really difficult for her to make it. It's just a fact. Every time she goes to 35, it's going to be hard. Sometimes they're a little bit easier than others, but nonetheless, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. Understandable. And now there's people saying that she shouldn't be fighting so close to the weight cut as well. Again, critics, I use that word very loosely here, but what do you say to them that, she shouldn't be fighting because of the tough weight cut just a few weeks ago? Because it's almost like she's going through it again, even though it's higher weight class.
Yeah. I mean, granted, Aspen's a big girl, so yeah, she's cutting some weight to get back down to 46, of course, but she'll be fine. She did a bunch of testing. They tested everything to make sure everything was good. And everything was good relative to her electrolytes, all that kind of stuff. So she's fine. Yeah. I mean, it just goes back to that one thing, if you're a fan, be a fan. If you don't want to be a fan, then don't be a fan, but you don't get an opportunity. I mean, anyone has an opportunity to talk shit, but you just look stupid when you're not in the game in any shape, form or fashion at all. And you're just making comments that you have no idea about. If you don't like a fighter, don't like them. Right. But making comments about things that you literally have no clue about is just stupid, and nor do any of us even pay attention to it. We just chuckle.
Have you got any like nasty DMs or threats or anything from because fans are, you know how they are. It's not just this sport, but every sport you get people writing all types of nonsense. I'm sure to Aspen, but also to you as well.
Yeah, I got a couple like here and there on Twitter. Every once in a while, I just kind of chuckled, and then they get blocked, because it's just like, who are you? You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, they just want attention, right?
So I want to deal with it. I mean, last time I checked, I've worked my ass off to get to where I'm at, and so is Aspen, and so is our whole team. And I've been in the sport longer than most people have even been alive. So, to let any of that affect you, people are always going to talk shit. If you're successful at any point, if people are talking about you, good or bad, then you're doing something right. Right. Yeah. If you're in the media, you're in the media for a reason, whether it's bad or good. It's just,
Yeah, understandable. Let's talk about Norma Dumont, the opponent. Did you know much about her before taking this fight? She's only had a couple of UFC fights, so I imagine it's not someone that's like a household name.
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar with her. I try to do my due diligence on any female who's relatively close in weight, whether they're 45, 35, or tried both or what have you. So, no, yeah, very, very well aware of her. Fortunately for Aspen, she trains all the time. So that's the one aspect where it becomes easy for an athlete when they're training every day. That getting ready for a specific opponent is super simple because you are so well-rounded and ready for any kind of fight. So, we looked at some tendencies, which we already kind of were aware of, and looked at them a little bit deeper. And put together a quick little plan, and we'll have fun on Saturday night.
And, as someone who studies, fighters quite frequently, where do you see Aspen having her advantages? Not giving away the game plan here, but do you have sort of an idea of how the fight will sort of not play out, but not, like the style matchup, so to speak?
They're both super aggressive fighters. Norma is very aggressive. She's a good boxer. She has good movement. I think it has the potential of two people meeting in the middle and getting and being one of those fights that people talk about for a long time to come.
This is a 5-round fight, correct? Even though the short notice?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel like that favors Aspen because of her cardio? That's one of the things you and I always talk about, is that Aspen, I don't know if people know, hikes like 6 hours a day. Like, she's used to being out there, and I know fighting's a bit different, but still that's got to help the lungs being up in the mountains that much.
Yeah, no, she was excited when she hears that 5 rounds. She's like, oh, cool. She goes, make it more rounds.
Yeah.
So
she probably could fight more than that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Excited. You know what I mean? She's very excited. She was eager. As soon as the call came, she didn't hesitate without even knowing who she was fighting. So yeah, she's ready to go. She's happy. She's excited. She understands, her previous mistakes, and you have to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to ask, obviously, how is her weight right now leading into this fight? It's 145, so obviously a lot easier than making 135.
It's good. It's good.
Okay, we'll keep it at that. Do you get the sense from the UFC that they want her to stay at 145, or is this sort of like a one-off? What are you sort of getting from them?
No, we've talked to the UFC. They're not telling her that she can't fight at 35. It's just this came up short notice, and it's easier on her body. And we've always talked with the UFC about going back and forth anyway, so it's not like this is like a big surprise. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows it's difficult for Aspen to make 135 pounds. Can she do it? Yes, of course. It just needs to be, almost perfect for her to do it. But like I said, she's always been eager. She's been talking about fighting at 45 for the last year or two. So this isn't anything really new. She was just super pumped when she got the call, especially considering the circumstances the last couple of weeks, right? So I think she'll float back and forth, kind of depending on what's going on. She just needs ample time to be able to go to 35 and then try to calculate when certain things are going to happen and not happen. This time was just sucked because she got hit back to back with that fun stuff, which is not necessarily normal, but for Aspen, it's not abnormal.
Just a couple more quick questions. I know I'm cutting into your lunch break. Don't want you to be famished going back to work here. But what type of camp has Aspen had since the fight? Like, obviously, when the weight cut didn't happen, probably take a little bit of time off. If anything, you're probably telling Aspen, hey, don't go and hike right away. Let's just take it easy a bit. What type of camp has she had leading into this?
Well, I mean, she's never really out of one.
Yeah.
Because Macy and her were supposed to fight in July, right? And then they got booked for October. So she took a tiny bit of time off from July, to kind of reset. And then she was right back to trying to cut weight again. And then this time she, had a few days. She was eating nicely and kind of enjoying herself and trying to just reflect on, what had transpired. And then the call came and she jumped on it. So she hasn't really been out of camp, right?
Yeah, no, it's a lifestyle, right, for her at this point in terms of being active. And like I've heard from you and others that it's more of a case of like, hey, Aspen, you got to scale it back a little bit. You're doing too much, right? So that's sort of what we're hearing. How much different will she look on Saturday from the last time we saw her in the cage against Yana Kunitskaya? This is something you and I have talked about where, there's been so many improvements made behind the scenes since we last saw her. The injury, if anything, that's been the benefit of it, is that she has time to work on certain things.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is in between each fight is to add, a couple new tools into your toolbox, right? So I think you're going to see a couple of those again. And I think you'll see a difference in her athleticism and speed and explosiveness just because of the long layoff and all of the different things she had to do with the recovery from her knee. So yeah, you'll see a couple of wrinkles in there. And I think probably a little bit more athleticism and,
in your eyes as the coach, what do you see in terms of the implications of a victory, especially a finish on Saturday in a main event that usually counts for a lot, regardless of weight class?
Yeah, it's one fight at a time, one opponent at a time. So all we're focused on is that. We'll go in and put on a good show. Aspen's ready to go, and she's eager. She hasn't been in there a while. She's chomping at the bit. So we'll go in and handle the fight, and that's all we're thinking about.
Couple quick updates and some other teammates part of MMA Gold. Anthony Hernandez, what's the latest on him? I know he had some injuries. And any update on him?
He's fighting December 18th against Dustin
Stolfus? Yeah.
Stolfus? I can't pronounce that. December 18th. And then Andrea Lee is November 13th against Jessica Ai.
Great fight, yeah.
Tony Kelly is against Randy Costa December 11th.
I was going to say, any Max Griffin updates? A big win in his last fight, obviously.
There was an offer, but he didn't want to fight that soon, so he'll fight somewhere in the beginning of the first quarter.
Okay, and last one I got to ask, Shealor, lad, Aspen's big little brother. Anything on the horizon for him? Because I know he's just been slowly racking up some fights as he's starting his amateur career.
Yeah, he's fighting the week after Aspen, actually, October 23rd here in Sacramento. He's got a tough opponent. Kid's name's Oscar Castro, tall, lanky Muay Thai fighter with some decent jiu-jitsu. He's 3-2, I think. So it should be a good fight.
Good stuff. And this is always a good interview, Jim. Thanks for the time. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here? Social media, sponsors, anything like that? I'll give you the last word.
No, it's just thanks to our team, all of our coaches. Anyone that helps us, the UFC, of course, all the other organizations and things that give us opportunities. Thanks for having me on.